$4 million. So between the two clubs, they make roughly $10 million. They make roughly $10 million on liquor sales. So any one girl, any one guy isn't working to the clubs, the liquor licenses. So when you say she's a prostitute, not those clubs. If they find out she's doing anything, because some young girls are stupid and get talked into stupid shit. But if it happens, out the door she goes, and quick. Because they don't want nothing to happen to that liquor license. But when it comes to, like I said, Hollywood, Hollywood was known to be owned by a longtime corruptee. That guy's name, it'll take me a while to come up with his name. But he's since passed away, and his daughter took over. I don't know if it got any cleaner. Good night, Brian. I don't know if it got any cleaner, but we are talking about Washington Park. And there's a big difference, huge difference, between Washington Park and, per se, East St. Louis. That what goes on in Washington Park goes on kind of unobstructed. And if it was going on in East St. Louis, they would at least control it. And I'll say that the easiest way. Here's an example. I don't know, I don't know politically where you are, but I got a question. This may make your brains. There's an old fellow in Illinois. His name's Dick Durbin. Ever heard of him? This guy's 70 plus years old white man. And where does he get elected? Year after year, or term after term after term. He gets elected in East St. Louis. How does an old 70-year-old white man get elected as a senator? Not a congressman, not a state senator. The senator out of East St. Louis. How does that happen?
I don't know.
Corruption. That's the only way it could happen. Remember Boo-Boo?
Nope.
You don't remember Boo-Boo? For Us, By Us?
Oh, FUBU. Okay. Yeah.
Well, and I guess you wouldn't remember Carl Officer. He was a longtime mayor of East St. Louis. He was the one that finally got a grip on it and finally started to say, hey, look, if we want to be a city, we have to act civilized. And they started to, not so much clamp it down, but control it. Because when you got mice in a field, that's the best way I can put it. You got mice in a field, you throw one cat, that cat's going to catch a couple mice. He's not going to catch the whole field of mice. He can't. Right? So what I'm saying here is, if you got an old white man, 70 plus years old, and he's been a senator out of East St. Louis every 6 years, or like 40 years, how does that happen? It's not because I don't know how much you really know about East St. Louis. The population is 97%, not African American, but non-white.
Damn.
So who's voting for him? It's corrupt as fuck. And he's one of the big Democrat leaders. His name is always takes me wrong. Dick Durbin. And so there's no other answer, no possible answer. And nobody ever brings it up. Nobody ever says, well, who's voting for you? We know right now it's not the population. And if you give them, which is something else I kept saying, give them a true option. Give the population of East St. Louis one of their own to vote for. They will vote for them. So, not Dick Durbin, who lives in Chicago somewhere. He gets elected out of East St. Louis, but he lives in, and he spends, 90% of his time in D.C., which, of course, politicians per se all get treated like, they all think Trump wants to be king. All the politicians in D.C. are treated like kings. The higher up they are, the bigger the king they are. So, I just say that's where the I think that's where the bigger problems are, that they need to, oh, here's another one. You live in the city of St. Louis?
Living in who?
In the city of St. Louis?
Yeah.
Okay. We got this mayoral vote coming. Over the years, we've had, that I know of, we've had 4, maybe 5 black mayors in my years. A couple of them were really good ones. One of them, man, he deserved so much better. His name was Clarence Harmon, and he had been the police chief of the city before he became mayor. I don't know if you remember or not. This is called back in the 90s, 1994, 5, 6. But one thing we don't need what they're trying to give us. They're trying to give us not just a woman, but a person. And she's going to be elected, whether you know. Now, in the old days, good night, Johnny. In the old days, they used to have what was known as the primary, which we just had. And in that system, whoever won that primary, which is this woman, Kara Spencer, she won the primary. She got the most votes. In the old system, when we would come back and vote for real, whoever won the primary was the mayor. It was an automatic. Nobody was going to, they would have to light themselves on fire or have a heart attack for them not to get elected. Well, since then, City of St. Louis has introduced this new system, which is choose as many as you want, and whoever gets 4 different candidates, choose as many as you want, you individually. You can vote for all 4 of them. Oh yeah. And then the 2 highest come back for the general election. Well, as it turns out, that's Kara Spencer and Tashara Jones, our current mayor. But Tashara comes in with like a 20% vote mark. That however many votes there were, let's say 100% votes, Tashara only got 20% of them. Everybody else got the 80%, and this Kara Spencer got like 60% of them. So in the old system, which is just a few years ago, everybody would already know that Kara Spencer is going to be elected mayor in the general vote. We already know it. But in this new system, there's still this Hail Mary out there. This Hail Mary for Tashara Jones, and it's not going to happen. I would think, for what it's worth, because it would have been her second go-around, they learn after the first go-around. You can't, if you've never been a mayor, how the fuck are you supposed to know how to be a mayor, So they learned in that first go-around, and if she'd have got reelected, then she'd have a fighting chance to make things happen. But what we're going to get is we're going to get a lesbian. I ain't got nothing against lesbians. I don't. But we don't need a white lesbian for a mayor of the city of St. Louis. She's not going to pull in the coalition. The only thing she's going to do is bring turmoil.
Because she's a woman.
That's part of it. That's a big part. Of it. But lesbian women don't think the way our moms do.
Right.
They don't. They want to speak loudly and carry big sticks. So that's what's going to happen.
Lesbian? You said a lesbo?
Yeah.
A lesbian?
Yeah. Yeah, with her short hair. And she's a lipstick lesbian, too, on top of that.
Gosh.
Yeah, so, and I don't have anything against her. I just know she's not going to be effective. And the city of St. Louis needs a leader. Somebody who can pull them in and say, look, this is what we got to do. It may hurt, but we got to do it. If we don't do it, we're only going to get worse.
They need a straight man in office.
Well, I won't say directly as a straight.
But you just said you didn't want the lesbian.
Well, no, what I said was we don't need one.
Well,
She's not going to be able to get the job done. Now, if you put a gay man in there, because you said that word straight, put a gay man in there, and he is not going to get it done. He's not. A gay man would not get it done.
Right.
Uh,
That's why I said what I said. And you disagree.
well, but for the different reasons. A gay man being wishy-washy. A lesbian will want to put her foot on your neck and grind you to the ground. Because they're like that, you know. And they literally not just dislike men, they hate men. So, you know, it's not going to be a rough few years because she's going to be elected. But we had a president of the aldermen, and it'll take me a while to come up with his name. I don't know how he got ensnared. But he got caught up in some sort of a bribery thing. Louis Reed. I like that man. I knew at the time, of course this was before the bribery thing happened, I knew at the time because he was running for mayor. He, being the president of the aldermen, of all the body, knew how the system worked. He knew who to contact to get something done. And so I was looking forward to him becoming mayor. And again, you know, we're talking about Louis Reed, black fellow. I've met him a couple times, a nice fellow. Somehow, and I remember the bribe thing, it was very vague. And we were talking about...
Oh, he did some criminal?
Yeah, I don't think he went to jail. But he had to resign, and we wound up losing somebody who would have been a potential very good mayor over some, like I said, very vague about
What did he do?
some kind of campaign financing.
Oh, he was cheap.
Somebody on his system, and when you're the head guy, if one of them's fucking up, they blame you.
Yeah, because like he's the head.
Yeah, and so he wound up.
Because his team was cheap.
Yeah, I don't know the whole outcome. I talked to Brian about it a couple of times, but I haven't heard much about it either in the last. It all started about 3 years ago, I guess, 4 years ago. Yeah, I want to say 3 years ago. But he really, what I liked about him was, like I say, he had been a Board of Alderman president. So he was already an alderman. Then he got elected president of the Board of Aldermen. But you don't run for that seat. You get elected by the Board of Aldermen. Meaning they thought he was a good leader. He communicated well. And he started running to be the mayor of the city of St. Louis. And I thought, yeah, Reed can get something fucking done. Reed, the way I was looking at it was Reed could go to North St. Louis and then go to South St. Louis and say, look, you two are one St. Louis. You've got to kiss and make up. You have to. And when Reed gets taken out of the mix, that's where Tashara Jones shows up. She fills the void. And being that she's young, I don't know if you've seen her or not, she's a pretty woman. I think she'd only been an alderman for one term.
And she's young?
Yeah.
She's young like me?
Yeah. You know, that's another thing. When you're young, you might think you can do it all. You know, you might because you just don't know any better. But when you're young, you don't want the responsibility either, you know.
Facts.
But it's easier to have fun. So, but I'm saying this woman wasn't prepared for the job, and then a couple things happened, and the political winds that blow in St. Louis, the people that kind of drive both sides, because in the city of St. Louis, per se, we don't have any Donald Trumps. He doesn't exist here. We've got nothing but Democrats.
We need a Donald Trump.
Well, you know, what we need is somebody who can bring the factions together. And over the years, we have had a couple. I'm trying to think of his name. It's It's not Conway. It's not Conway. But he was our mayor right before Francis Slay. I'm trying to think of his name. It's not Conway. Man, I can't come up there. Bosley. All right, but it was Bosley Jr. Now, Bosley Sr. was an alderman for 50 years. So his son gets into the mix. When Bosley Sr. retires, his son becomes the alderman. He's an alderman for, I want to say, at least two terms. And then he ran for mayor and got elected. And then re-ran and got re-elected. Then sat out for a term, and then came back and got re-elected again.
So he never won.
Huh?
He never won.
No, he won twice.
He won twice.
Then he sat out for a term, and then he came back and won again. And every time he was in office, because he could communicate with the North and the South, as crazy as that sounds, because they're all